betrayed with a kiss.
Hello, and welcome again to another episode from our new series, Cross-Examination. In this series, we are examining those individuals that were at the foot of the cross or played a major role in our Lord's journey and passion to the cross. He was counted among the thieves. Yet, when one thinks of the word thief, you think of the two thieves that were crucified with our Lord. Yet, there was one thief that is not really spoken about. His name is Barabbas. With me today, I'd like to introduce Dr. Hani Ashamalla. Welcome, Dr. Hani.
Hi, Mary.
Who's a youth servant from St. Mary and St. Antonius Coptic Orthodox Church in Ridgewood, Queens. So we will talk about Barabbas, the notorious thief. So to start, I've actually pulled out the Bible verses that speak of Barabbas. And Matthew calls Barabbas a notorious prisoner. Mark says that he was bound and chained with his fellow rebels who committed murder in a rebellion. Luke says that it was for sedition and murder that he was in prison. John tells us that he's a robber. So my question is, can you think of why each gospel introduces Barabbas the way it does, and what do we know of Barabbas?
So the word Barabbas in Hebrew means bar means son. Abbas or Abba means father. Yes. So actually his name is son of the father. And if you're taking in a meditationary kind of thing, he is the son of Adam.
Yes, Adam being the father.
Adam is his father.
Yes.
But the son of Adam or Adam's son have really committed all these crimes. So the son of the real father, the son of man, he came and took the place of all Adam's son. Let it be as it may, Barabbas was a very famous revolutionist. And he was well known in Jerusalem, and it's believed that he was followed by a big crowd. He was a robber. He probably committed murder, and there are some claims by Josephus, the big historian, Jewish historian, that he probably killed one of the Roman officers as well, and that's why everybody was on top of him to bring him to prison. He also may be considered part of a group of, they call themselves the National Zealots, where they are trying to free Jerusalem from the power of the Roman Empire. So they tried to do revolution, they tried to do insurrection, but also while he was doing this, he was robbing people, he was stealing. So all the names that you mentioned are written about him in history.
So if Jesus and Barabbas were both popular, why would you say that the crowd almost urged and cried out for Jesus' crucifixion, but yet Barabbas' release?
I mean, I think the reason that the high priests really influenced and inflamed the people to claim Barabbas' freedom and to ask for Jesus' crucifixion. I think the normal layman people, they have no problem loving Christ, who had fed 15,000 people, who have cured many of their illnesses, who have never done any robbing or any stealing or any insurrection. So to tell you the truth, for a layman, woman or man or even young boy standing there, I can't imagine that they will have any ounce of their mind to request freedom for Barabbas over Jesus, except for the influence of the scribes and the high priests. During the trials, as we read in the third hour on Holy Friday, there is a very nice prophecy from Isaiah. It says, I have treaded the winepress alone, and none of the people were with me. I mean, prophetically, Christ was pressing and treading on winepress. He's being squeezed from all kinds, politically and Romans, and leaving his own relatives and family members and close disciples. But not only that, where is the born blind? Where is the guy that he was cured after 38 years? Where are the many lepers? Where are the 5,000 to 15,000 people who were fed by 5 loaves and 2 fish? Can you imagine all of these people were silenced? And not because they are choosing John the Beloved instead of Christ, they are choosing the worst criminal. So the influence of the high priests were so major in this event, to the extent that they were able to silence the people and dissuade them to avoid, to let Barabbas go.
Almost out of fear for maybe them also being taken to...
Correct. Maybe let go outside the temple, and maybe they are promised or discouraged by many reasons.
Yes. I want to dig deeper into Barabbas and sort of imagine what was Barabbas feeling when he hears his name being called out.
I'll use your way of imagination since we don't have much written. But number one, Pontius Pilate is coming to the end of his failure to judge fairly, and he is bringing the last card who did not imagine for 100 years that it could fail. I'm putting Barabbas, your worst enemy, in front of Jesus, who looks like very weak and very frail that moment. Basically, Pontius Pilate never thought that they would let Barabbas be freed. But let us think now of Barabbas and think of the soldiers who are going to Barabbas. Pontius Pilate goes back in and says to his soldiers, go and free Barabbas. And I imagine every single soldier of them hating Pilate at that time. They caught Barabbas after a lot of work. And he was the most hated criminal. And now he is being let to be in the streets again, who God knows what he will do. So this is how the soldiers felt. And let us now imagine what happens to Barabbas. The soldiers goes and open the cell, and I imagine this guy will be broken in tears and screams, because regardless of how strong he could be, at the time of crucifixion, everyone loses it, except our Lord. And when they told him, you crazy man, you are going to be freed, and we don't like it, but we must do it, I don't think he believed them. I think he thought that they are just tricking him, until the moment of no chains in his hands, until the moment he found himself freed in the street. And if I let my imagination to go off, and again, we don't have much to base our imagination upon, I would imagine that even Barabbas went to Golgotha. He probably just went for his own, just mere curiosity. Who is that man that they replaced me with? He knows himself how a bad criminal he is. And he probably imagined, just imagined, that maybe Demas instead of him. Maybe he imagined the left thief instead of him. But when he kept asking and they told him there is a man called Jesus, and he looks like have done miracles, and he helped so many and cured so many, and he looks at him and find him so weak, so frail, and then forgiving on the cross. Again, just because of the traditions tells us that Barabbas became good later on in his life. I think Barabbas was asking the question that our beloved late Pope Shenouda put in a poem saying, why am I free and you, the righteous man, on the cross instead of me? I am the one who listened to the voice of the serpent and sinned, and you crushed the serpent and you are crucified. So we can go off with this more and more, but Barabbas must have got the shock of his life to see himself free, and one who looks far from being criminal in his place. And until he went there and he found that cross being occupied by this righteous man, I think until that time he could not believe himself. But coming to the two thieves, since today is almost like a dungeon, we're talking about thieves, you are right. There are some historians writes that Demas and maybe the other thief were part of the Zealots insurrection movement that Barabbas was leading, and a lot of people were some of his followers. So it's not unusual to think him and the other two being crucified together. And just a side note, the Gospels never write that Demas was on the right. Actually, it only says one of the thieves said, "Remember me, O Lord, when I come into thy kingdom." I think the church for many centuries are using the word right thief because we always think that the right side is the place of the righteous. So we gave that position to Demas, and it could have been right thief, but we need to just put the precision into the discussion that we don't know who is left and who is right, but we know definitely that one of them was saying, "Remember me, O Lord." But the left thief certainly was mocking Christ a lot in the beginning, and he was telling him, "If you are the Son of God, come down and save yourself and save us from the shame." Mary, I want to be now asking the question.
Okay.
Can you imagine the left thief is saying, "Save me and yourself from the shame"? And if we leave our imagination to go on, and Barabbas is under the third cross, or from far heard this, and he knows his friend on the left side, or on the one of the side, what do you think he felt when he heard that his brother, his co-criminal, talking about shame on the cross, and he is freed? I mean, I would have thought, he would have thought, I'm freed from this shame that my friend is on because of this guy on the cross. And that's, I think, when you started by saying he was counted among thieves, and I like that verse very much when you started with, that Barabbas, although he wasn't crucified with him, I think Barabbas, for whatever life he had after Christ, always felt that Christ took his place. And he did not deserve this place, because I'm sure he would have investigated who is that man that took my position.
Would you say that we are Barabbas in a sense?
I think we are all the son of Adam, daughters of Adam. We are all Bar Abba, means son of Adam. And we all were deserving the cross. Jesus did not deserve this cross. It's our cross that he took. It's our curse he carried. It's our shame he endured. So each one of us, 100%, absolutely I agree with you, we are those Barabbas. And that's why when the real Son of the Father comes, he frees us. He let us go. And he gave us this freedom which we would have never have dreamt of. Only because he himself takes our punishment, takes our curse. So I think it's great from you to think this way, because Barabbas, regardless of how little is written about him, the importance and the significance of what is written about him, that he represents all of us. He represents us in making sure that Jesus' cross he did not deserve it. But that cross, we deserved it.
How do you think Barabbas felt at the moment that he knew he was free? And was the Lord almost, and the Lord being almost insensitive to their cries, to the crowd?
I think Barabbas went into mixture of feelings, feeling of complete joy, of me about to be executed, now I'm completely free, to wonder, to a puzzle, why you and why me? Why you allowing this to happen to you? Especially when he had seen the darkness for 3 hours, the earthquake that happened during the 6th hour on the cross, when he heard that there were resurrections and all of this, and maybe even he heard or had seen the resurrected Lord, I'm sure he would always wonder in his own heart, why you on the cross? Why me free? But you asked a different question. What is our Lord's response to the crowd?
Yes.
And unfortunately, our Lord still hears the same cry up till today. He hears us saying, crucify him and let Barabbas go. We are still crucifying our Lord with our actions, with our behavior, with our insensitivity, as you said. The cries were completely insensitive to our Lord. Of course, the economy of salvation is planned. And he knew he is taking Barabbas' place in every generation and in every nation. But still, you are right. The insensitivity of us crying, crucify him, must have hurt our Lord's heart.
And I also, even with the Lord being on the cross, even when he's at the point of death, I would say, he's blood all over, he can't even, it's hard for him to even breathe. But yet, with Demas crying out and telling him, remember me, O Lord, when you come into your kingdom. At that point, I mean, I feel it's so much, you get that hope that our Lord is not, even at his lowest point, he still accepts us.
I mean, I agree what you're saying, and also if you would allow Barabbas to hear his old friend Demas saying, remember me, and then he hears an answer which says, you will be with me in paradise. This is the guy just took my place. So he's not after all a criminal to take my place. He has his own paradise. If I have to guess, and the traditions is also rich of stories, and there are movies about that Barabbas must have changed. There is no one who had seen a sacrifice that magnitude for his behalf and stay the same.
Thank you, Dr. Hani.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
It's my pleasure, thank you.
Whom do we choose? Do we choose Barabbas, or do we choose to side with Jesus? Jesus, who died for us, the pure, the innocent Lamb that shed his blood for the salvation of the world. Yet many times, we who deserve to be crucified, we who deserve the sentence of death, we who are guilty, we who are sinful, but yet we choose to side with Barabbas and cry out and say, crucify him. And yes, we do crucify him. Every day we crucify him with our actions. But let me assure you, when we choose to side with Barabbas, our life will feel so empty, so lonely. But yet when we choose to side with our Lord, how joyful, how peaceful, how everlasting the fulfillment of his joy will be. I hope you enjoyed our episode today. Until next time, have a blessed day.
My body, my blood, betrayed with a kiss.